next up we have in second place La France, Les Bleus. Yes, it was a tale of just like very, very talented, very mercurial at times. Things are good, at times things are very bad, and ultimately bridesmaids again, which is that to be the tale of this team? It certainly has been so far, which is something they'll be keen to remedy, because they have their plans. It'll all be fine if they win the World Cup. They are building a team to try and win the World Cup, but putting together a load of second places and losing key games towards the end and not managing them that well, those are big work-ons for a very exciting side.
I agree. I think they've been they've been obviously fabulous in parts, but it is probably hard to call this year progress when you look at
where they were last year.
In some areas they are still absolutely fabulous. They take brilliant tries. Their offense came up on another level in terms of just how clinical they were. The offloading game is fabulous.
That try they scored against England was an absolute peach. In terms of set piece, you can see the value in everything they're doing when you just see that try come off, and you're like, oh yeah.
It's a beautiful combination of skills and heads up footy, but also structure and wonderful strike plays as well. And marrying that with the razzle dazzle that they can work once they get a break on and a little bit of an edge. I think it's a really exciting offense with so much talent in there. You look at Fiku and all of his contributions, the clutch try they take against Wales. There's a lot to love, but then like in other areas, I think they lost to England obviously, and they lost to Scotland. They were lucky as hell not to lose to Wales, but they did really well to win that game. So it's probably an unfair thing to say they were lucky as hell. But like Wales could have and probably would have taken it away from them, and a harsh ref would have given them a penalty try against them, which would have been probably too much. In that moment when Wales went 30-20. And so they did manage to get that game, but they could have easily lost that game. The game in Dublin, they were the better team, they were the better offense, and they did win the game. But they ended up bizarrely with only a 2-point lead and receding into themselves, and on Ireland on a better day could have got them there as well.
Certainly Ireland in the form they showed in the England game probably would have been too much for that France too, and it's nothing to do with the calibre of the team. It was just kind of the management of these moments and kind of letting the games kind of drift out of their control a little bit, which is a shame considering just some of the calibre they have on offence and also defence. The Sean Edwards defence is the area that you would cite as just improving as well as much improved on where it was. When you think 2 years ago, they were nowhere near as ferocious or as cohesive as they are on defence. And they had like against Wales, obviously, which the Wales were the most clinical team in the tournament. They were kind of cut to shreds a little bit in the first quarter. They were like that. That was the first time we really saw that defence flounder a little bit, but in all the other games they really managed to swallow up some really good attacking sequences, particularly the England game. They really looked phenomenal in that. Like England were playing well, they were playing looking like their old selves, and it could have been much more certainly if like in any other opponent and an England team on that form could have been racking up a serious score, but for France's good scramble D. So there's a lot of good things there. Guys like Cyril Bay and Marchand being awesome all tournament long in the front row, and in the back row you have Captain Olivon doing brilliant things, and Aldred as well working very, very hard. So there's a lot of quality.
No, I would agree. I think those four of the front eight were excellent. Marchand, Bay, Olivon and Aldred were excellent and were working hard, but they were up against mighty packs, and they didn't often win those battles.
No.
And I think the other jersey, whether it was Dylan Cretin or Gélange coming in, or Woki for that brief period where he lost the game, you could argue, against England, that was obviously a bad moment. But even in the second row, Telfi Fanua was impressive, but Willemse and Leroux, when they were in there, were like less so. And then obviously Willemse comes up with that eye gouge, which could have cost them the game against Wales. I didn't love their forward pack's performance, and even Mohamed Ouas, like he's not winning, he's losing more scrum battles than he's winning these days, although he does win some. And obviously he always has the bad penalties in him. Against Wales, could have given away a penalty try. So I think last year, like they were, they had great offense at times. You look at the way they took the game away from Ireland, and the way they took the game away from England. They had a forward pack that was winning battles. They had a defence that was shutting teams down, and they had a boot in from Anthony Boutier, the aptly named fullback. getting them up the pitch, and it was how they undid England last year in many ways, was just exiting and nullifying England's offence by being able to exit and forcing them to work their way up the pitch.
Yeah.
And all of that's kind of gone. Like, they still have the razzle-dazzle offence. If anything, it's better than it was. But the forward pack is stalled or has been caught up to by the other teams, and the kicking game is completely gone in the absence of Boutier. They just aren't getting themselves up the field or generating chances. And so without the kicking game, without the forward pack, they're not getting any kind of chances. They're spending most of the games defending pretty much every week at this level, and then having one or two chances.
That was the issue. Yeah, they couldn't exit efficiently. Certainly that Wales game was a naff spectacle in the first quarter, where they both had 14 points on the board before any team had exited, but it was Wales who managed the first exit successfully, and it could have been that was the story or a story of the game, but ultimately no, they managed to dig that one out of the fire. They still have too much quality to be written off at all. They finished second. That is good, as we were saying, considering how tight this tournament is and the quality and calibre of all the sides in it. Second is a very good finish, but France are a team with lofty aspirations, and they are hosting the next World Cup. As we say, they have a mind to win that. That is their ultimate goal. That is the mission statement for this coaching group and for this playing group. And as much as they have the tools to do it, I believe that they can do it. Definitely, this squad. Looking at just
they're one of the more likely. They're one of the more likely squads. Still, they have endless talent, great coaching, and they just need to iron out some creaks. And I think there is a missing kicking element to their game. And if they're going to go with Dupont and Jalibert, who are very much running players, there is a need to balance that out with not another running fullback. Unless they're going to just run it from everywhere and open up defences from their own 22. But most teams at this level, that's going to be a non-starter, and you're going to need a capacity to have a good kicking game to get yourself up the field. And if they don't bring that to the World Cup, if they continue with an imbalanced team that is all about the running game, I think that's an area that's missing. Essentially, I think they need to, if it's not Boutier, it needs to be someone else in the mould of a Boutier or a Scott Spedding, who they used to have, or somebody who has a long boot to play at fullback, if they're going to go with Dupont and Jalibert going forward, which I think they should.
I do too. I think that's their best halfback pairing by quite a distance, I think, as well, and Ntamack to come in off the bench to maybe kind of manage the game a bit more of a kicking out half than Jalibert. I think it's a good balance that way.
To your point, they are a young team.
They are very young, and they're learning still potential.
Exactly, like if they've won the World Cup, the story of this journey will be, the first couple of years, it's getting the raw talent in, and they get to show it, and then learning harsh lessons in some little areas and avoiding taking trophies, and then as the seasons go on, they have plenty of time to work with. They build, they improve, they put it all together. Then they win a Six Nations. Then they go into the World Cup as a champion team with championship credentials and peak at that time.
That's what the goal is. 100%.
That's what the goal is. So
but they will probably need to win a trophy or at least a few big games between now and then to get themselves.
Puts pressure on you.
Yeah,
if you keep finishing second, like now it's 3 second place finishes in 18 months if you count the Autumn Nations Cup. And so if they go into next year and they don't win that tournament, that's when it starts to be, oh my god. And like, if they comes to a deciding game in next year's tournament, there will be pressure on them not to be bridesmaids again. Indeed.
So the good and the bad, the sublime and the ridiculous, but everything we love about French rugby is definitely in full flow. And when you consider where they were for a decade plus in terms of just being at sea and being big, physical, lumbering, and not very competitive, they are the opposite now. The Jouet is back in the mix, and the games are prettier for it. Le Crunch is now an absolute banger every year, which is just a great state.
Like from a point of view of just watching them, from just a fan on a seat, I think everybody acknowledges this. They are just the funnest team to watch. They're all over the place at times, but they are brilliantly offensively minded, and it's great for the Northern Hemisphere rugby to have a team who's just going to run you ragged if you want to play slow and silly. They can catch you with your pants down and run you off the park, and they're just glorious to watch. I mean, 100%. Picking a best try for this team is just impossible. They've so many good tries.
It's so many good ones. The Olivon one versus Ireland, which was not a good one from our personal point of view, but my god, it was a great, really well taken score with their first foray into the 22 of that game, where Ireland had just been hammering away at them impotently for around 20 minutes, and then they go straight up the other side, move it nicely, and Captain Olivon goes in
off the top of a line out, go to the right extremity, cut a little hole. then move it all the way to the left, and your captain is in for a lovely drive-by shooting of a score. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
They had a couple other set-piece diamonds. It's hard to look past the untouched magnificence of the try they scored against England.
Yeah,
Pinot's try,
the panache, the brilliant execution, and just the audacity of the call, like firing it in Marchand to Fiku with 25 plus spiral, and again Marchand, jeez, like what a skill to execute, like 25 yards plus to the midfield to Fiku, who'll swivel and offload for him. And
back to Dupont, out to Jalibert, super wide to have your 10, and then your 10's just out there throwing the killer pass. It's all done. England can't lay a hand on you. There was a beautiful poetry to that try, but even some of the other tries, like Pinot's last week, which was marred in controversy because of the potential TMO call that could have been, it could have been a yellow card, but then it was scored, so it can't be a yellow card.
Right.
Try. But the Pinot score with Vakatawa out the back, Pinot chips, finds it glorious.
I do love watching Dupont or Pinot even in flight. He's a lovely runner of a ball.
He is. Dupont against Wales was magnificent as well.
Yes, also a very, very fine score.
Yeah.
Geez, they do score pretty tries. They score the prettiest tries, but I think the prettiest try has to go to the set piece strike play versus England. That's just not going to be topped.
I should mention at this point that to get I don't think that we can realistically give a try against Italy the best try award.
No, despite
unless it's like TJ Perenara versus Namibia level good.
Yeah,
it can't enter the mix because Italy are just levels below.
Although they did score an absolute banger against Italy, didn't they?
They did.
Dupont with that little offload at the
back. The little reverse flick.
Audacious,
glorious.
But it's all fun and games when no one's tackling you.
Yeah, exactly. But they are a joy to behold, and only going to be better. I think their moment of the tournament it has to be.
It's an obvious one.
Yeah, Doolan's
Doolan crashing over at the death to deny Wales and to win in Paris. That's your moment of the tournament for
100%.
sure.
And they hadn't had enough of they had the heartbreak against England the week before, but they haven't had enough. They haven't often been on the right end of those at the death moments.
No, it's true. They'll probably, and from a French point of view, they'll probably argue full time in Dublin was pretty spectacular for them. They were glad to get out of that with the thing.
And they were feeling the joy of it.
You could see them elated to finally win in Dublin. I'm sure it was a talking point for them. I know it was. We were not looking at it from a French point of view at that time, but certainly that was a good moment for them. But it's gotta be Doolan in Paris for sure.
Yeah. And then their player of the tournament. I mean, we've talked through most of the men.
Yeah.
For me, it's Fiku all day.
Yeah. Well, like when you're looking at the tournament and the nominees for player of the tournament, it's Dupont apparently, but Dupont didn't play that well in parts. He played well, yes, but by his own standards, he wasn't himself in terms of he had a few little off moments, and he didn't play particularly well against Scotland in the last game either. So I found it a dubious nomination, to be honest. If you're going to nominate one Frenchman, it's definitely Fiku because he's been everywhere, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, not only was he just throughout games always popping up, making plays, collecting high balls in the wing in that last day. Fixing guys, cutting holes through the midfield, sitting guys down. I think of Ireland sitting down Billy Burns to cut that hole before that Olivon try that we were just discussing. All of the classy touches from him, but he was also his
hustle on defence. He was the one who made the tackle on James Lowe in that game to deny Ireland what would have been the opening score as well, and he did it despite losing his footing in the midfield earlier in the sequence, and managed to regather it and make the last ditch tackle.
He was a clutch moments man, and highlighted in no small part by the shape and give against Wales for Doolan's try there.
Yeah.
Where he sits down.
A lesser centre might have either not fixed the man or floated the pass too much or both, and he did neither.
What we're seeing a lot of guys doing, including Doolan that last game against Scotland, is just in that situation eating up the space,
running sideways,
hoping to commit the drifting defender, but very often not doing so because you haven't got the guts to square your body and then throw a pass across yourself and hope that it's accurate enough. And Fiku does exactly that really, really well. He's just such a classy player, and really just growing more and more into one of the finest players in world rugby, I think.
Oh, I think so, and he's certainly one of the captains in that side. I know Olivon is their captain, fantastic from the back row, but he's definitely the leader in the back line, I think. He seems
to be the guy directing the show.
Yeah, as much as like Dupont is brilliant and he gets their tempo set perfectly and is a threat himself. I think the maturity and the level-headedness is all Fiku, and that's why it was an error to put him all the way out in the wing in that last game. And even though he was frozen out in the wing, he influenced that game more than most wingers would in that scenario. He was coming in, he was busy, he was still one of their better players on the pitch, but he probably should have been at 12 for them, or at 10. But he was definitely their player of the tournament, we think.
100%. Gael Fiku, quality tournament from him.
Yeah.
I suppose with that, congratulations to France on second place, and commiserations also on second place.
Same point. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe for more content, and leave a comment down below as well, because we really enjoy the chat and hearing your views. Thank you.